The deflation trap, why falling prices are more dangerous than rising ones. Most people think inflation is the enemy. Prices go up, your money buys less, you feel poorer. It's visible, it's annoying, and it's the thing central banks spend most of their time trying to control. But there's a scenario that economists fear far more than inflation, one that's quieter, rarer, and when it arrives, almost impossible to escape. It's called deflation, and it doesn't feel dangerous at first, because falling prices feel like a gift. What deflation actually is. Deflation is a sustained decrease in the general price level. Things get cheaper over time. Your money buys more tomorrow than it does today. On the surface, this sounds like good news. Your salary goes further. Your savings are worth more. Why would anyone be afraid of that? Because of what it does to behavior. If you know that prices will be lower next month, you wait to buy. If everyone waits to buy, companies sell less. If companies sell less, they cut production. If they cut production, they lay off workers. If workers lose jobs, they spend even less. And if everyone spends less, prices fall further because demand has collapsed and companies are desperate to sell anything at any price. The economy enters a spiral. Each step makes the next step worse, and once it starts, stopping it is extraordinarily difficult. The historical evidence. The most destructive economic event in modern history, the Great Depression of the 1930s, was a deflationary spiral. Between 1929 and 1933, prices in the United States fell roughly 25%. Unemployment reached 25%. GDP collapsed by nearly 30%. Banks failed by the thousands. The economic damage lasted a decade. Japan experienced a milder but persistent version of deflation from the early 1990s through the 2010s, a period economists call the lost decade, which eventually became two lost decades. Despite near-zero interest rates and massive government spending, the Japanese economy barely grew for 20 years. Why central banks fear it more than inflation. Inflation can be fought with interest rate increases. Raise rates, borrowing becomes more expensive, spending slows, prices stabilize. It's painful, but it works. Deflation is harder. The standard tool, cutting interest rates to stimulate borrowing and spending, has a floor. You can cut rates to zero. You can even go slightly negative. But there's a limit. And if deflation is severe enough, even zero interest rates aren't enough to make people borrow and spend when they expect prices to keep falling. This is called a liquidity trap. The economy stops responding to conventional policy, and unconventional tools, printing money, buying assets, direct government spending, carry their own risks and limitations. What this means for your investments. In a deflationary environment, cash and high-quality government bonds outperform. The purchasing power of cash rises as prices fall. Fixed interest payments become more valuable in real terms. Equities suffer because corporate revenues fall when prices fall, and debt becomes harder to service in real terms when the value of money is rising. Real assets like property can also decline significantly. This is one of the reasons a diversified portfolio matters. Pure equity exposure works brilliantly in inflationary growth environments. It works badly in deflationary contractions. Having some allocation to bonds and cash isn't just about risk tolerance, it's about having assets that perform differently across different economic regimes. The takeaway: inflation erodes your purchasing power slowly. Deflation can collapse the economy around you rapidly. Both are risks. The difference is that inflation is manageable. You invest, you buy assets, you stay ahead. Deflation is structural. Once it takes hold, the tools to fight it are limited, and the damage compounds in ways that are very hard to reverse. Understanding both is what separates investors who react to headlines from investors who understand the system they're operating in